I remember a casting director approached me at the gym and said, I just heard Showtime bought the rights to Queer as Folk. If I were you, I'd make a phone call, because he knew my work. And I remember getting a whole script, which was 200 pages long, by the way. It was the first 3 episodes of the show. So it was it was like a tome. And I remember reading it and kind of having my mind blown. My agents, I don't know that they had read it. I think they had sort of heard about it and heard it was going to be splashy or whatever, but they were like, whatever. My manager, who was openly gay, was all for it until we were screen testing. And when we were screen testing, they sent over a regular contract, which was indeed a terrible contract financially. But it came with a 20-page nudity writer. A 20-page nudity writer. It was 2 pages describing that you're agreeing to participate in this kind of storytelling, and then it had like 18 pages of the script attached to it that were sex scenes, basically between Brian and Justin, saying even if you're not doing these in the pilot, you are going to be called upon to do scenes like this, and you're agreeing to do it. And my manager called me when that came through and was like, "You're not doing this show." And I was like, "I'm sorry, what?" He's like, "You're not doing this show." He was like, "It is so obvious your career is about to happen." He was like, "You're testing all the time. You're about to pop." He's like, "I'm just afraid that if I try to take you to ABC, they're going to say, I can't put him on ABC. I just saw him getting ass fucked over on Showtime."
During the filming of that first season, they didn't want you to see anything that you guys had shot already, the way it was being cut together. What was your reaction to seeing the actual show for the first time?
It was like, we knew the show had been a big hit in the UK, and we knew we had a chance of being a really big hit as long as they didn't back down, as long as they didn't Americanize it and make it safer and more palatable to people. As long as we stayed in your face, we knew this was something special. And I think when we saw it, and like the first 15 minutes is basically, Justin getting rimmed, we were all like, oh shit, we did it. We did the thing. We did the thing. And I remember all of us kind of piling on Gale and just being like, you're about to be a giant fucking star. Like,
it's an unusual thing. It was electric. Peter's right. It was this really electric experience, because to see each other as television characters in this show was stunning. Yeah, I mean, the first time you see Gale, I was just like, what? That guy? What? And, with the lights and the lasers and like all these things going on, it was goosebumps.
And they had, interestingly, one of our producers had produced Friends. And he was the president of Warner Brothers when they did Friends. And he sat us all down and said, your lives are going to change. And he said, I have not seen an ensemble cast this strong since Friends and ER. And we were like, oh, put us in that company, please, and thank you. But he said, and he also said so wisely, he said, listen, the audience will find each of you at different times, but they will find all of you. All of you are fantastic, and all of you are doing fantastic work, and all of you are going to be great on the show. Give the audience a chance to find you. And I'm so grateful for that, because it took them a while to find Emmett. It took them a while to find Ted. Mm-hmm. And when they did, it was totally worth the wait.
One of the joys of a long-running series, that especially one that was based on something that was only really 6 or 8 episodes, and getting to branch off in different ways. And it's where Peter and I were very fortunate in this way, that there was no really fully realized template for Ted and Emmett of where they were going with things. And I think Ron and Dan,
you were dead, and my character was so different that it was kind of
so different.
More so than any other characters on the show. It really seemed like they were writing for the two of you, for Peter and for Scott.
I think so. And
you said that there were 2 other people who were up for the role of Emmett were 2 Black actors.
Yeah.
Now,
one of them is Billy Porter.
You're kidding me.
No, Billy Porter. It was Billy Porter, Wayne Wilkerson, and me. Those are the 3 people who tested. And Billy, to his credit, by the way, Billy, class fucking act, man. This guy, Billy is such a classy guy. I've been rooting for Billy his entire career because of this experience. He tests against me, doesn't get the job. He comes to the premiere. I would no more have gone to the premiere of a show I didn't get that I was the other choice for than The Man on the Moon. Like, I couldn't have handled it. My ego couldn't have handled it. He came to the premiere. He hunted me down at the reception and said, now I know why I didn't get the job. And I said, come on, Billy. And he said, no, I'm not kidding. He said, I could not do what you did with that role.
One of the main criticisms is frankly the lack of diversity in race,
that's
other sexuality.
That's our criticism of the show.
Absolutely.
Us as a cast, we were aware of it and knew we were failing as a show to rectify it.
What was the issue there? Like, is it that they could not find other actors? Like, I find that's an impossibility. So what was your reaction to the news that basically they were creating this other gay show that was going to be the female version of Queer as Folk?
I was thrilled that they were going to get to kind of play central. And I had watched Michelle and Taya really struggle with being kind of sidelined during our show. And, really only getting to carry stories around giving birth and how they related to Brian.
I was glad to see that we in some ways were birthing something else, and that this was, felt like it was going to be a part of a movement. My sister is gay also, so I was really thrilled for her to have that show for herself. I will admit to being resentful at the way it was allowed into the zeitgeist and the way that we were not. And that expanded their audience in a way that Showtime was maybe a little more interested with. And it was a lot easier for the media to write articles about and sell to the general public than gay men.
I think it was easier for the media to draw an exact parallel to Sex and the City. Because the initial tagline for the L Word was same sex, different city.
Didn't even know that.
The L Word really broke through. And hey, we can there's no further proof that, hey, in 2020, 2021, which is the show that got the reboot?
Right.
Well, but there's more to that story than that. It's not just that. It's that Showtime owned the L Word outright. Showtime never owned Queer as Folk outright. Because Queer as Folk started in the UK, it was originally bought by the chain of title on Queer as Folk is an incredibly complicated thing.
So wait, what? Yeah, the L Word is that's the easy.
It started with Showtime. It ended with Showtime. So when they want to reboot it, they can reboot it. There's a whole other story.
Can you talk about that? The ownership, how initially it was owned by Channel 4 and the BBC.
So it was originally a Channel 4 BBC thing. They sold it internationally to Warner Brothers, who brought it to Showtime. And so all of those players, these big, huge international media conglomerate players, all have a finger on that contract. So if you want the rights to that show, you have to navigate all of this legal stuff. And it's incredibly complex. And like Showtime owns the characters of Emmett and Ted, right? But Channel 4 owns the title of Queer as Folk. But Warner Brothers owns international distribution rights to this. So it's an incredibly complex thing that even as now a veteran showrunner, I couldn't pick apart if I tried. So that's one of the reasons. The other thing I think that doesn't get put into that conversation that I think is just simply true is Showtime had gotten better. Showtime had a big hit show, and they knew better how to launch another hit show because we had been there before them. It's just that simple. And I do think that, women get press because they do glamour magazines. You can put Jennifer Beals on the cover of Cosmo. And you can't put Gale, there's kind of nowhere to put Gale Harold. Like maybe he gets a detail spread, but like it's not the same thing. The same tools are not there to use. So I agree with Scott that there's a comfort with especially beautiful women portraying lesbians. There is a societal comfort that men find it hot, so therefore it's socially acceptable. But I think there are other things at play, and I think it's just a little bit of a muddy puddle that you have to kind of acknowledge all of it in order to see the full picture.
Yeah.